Hello? Hello? Mahila ka lang talaga, Claire pala. Okay, good afternoon everyone. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Medyo kahit po tayo ay nationalism English po gagamitin natin. At patutunayan po natin kung bakit pwede naman. Okay, good afternoon. So I was tasked to discuss patriotism and citizenship. So I was excited when I was informed about it because currently I'm also a student of public administration, taking up my PhD in public administration in Diliman. So I started reading through the material. So what you will see are some of the literature that the literature that I've been using for this particular presentation came from my own materials that I used to read in my own new direction in governance. Okay. Sige, andarin na natin to. So, simulan natin sa isang konteksto. A lot is happening in our country today, pero tingnan natin, there's a national apathy. I don't care, right? Wala akong pakialam. Actually, kasama ako minsan gano'n, no? Kasi nalimutan ko palang magrehistrong bumoto. No? Ayan, di ba? Oo. Kasi wala pa akong napipiling natatanging iboboto. But basically, I don't care. A lot is happening in our country today. Parang all of us would say magbabago lang, pare-pareho lang naman yan. Even politics is basically affecting us. Or wala ring mangyayari, so nothing will happen anyway. Even if I show whatever nationalism there is, no? It will be a problem. So mga classic example lang sa dyaryo. 34 moviegoers arrested for not standing up to sing Lupang Hinirang inside cinema. When was that? It was just September 6, 2018 in a movie house in Batangas. Can you imagine? 34. Talaga mukhang may pumunta doon just to count them. Ano? But of course, so we have also this. Philippine economic growth is basically very slow because of corruption. And all of this would be a symptom of what we call probably lack of nationalism, whatever. So we'll go through that. So, a reflection of our current state of nationalism, or should the more appropriate question be, do we even have a concept of nationalism to speak of? As a student of, for example, of public administration, in our class, for example, we talk about nationhood, nation building, citizenship. And sometimes, at one point, one of my professors said, you know what, there's no really such thing as a Filipino nation. The only very clear nationhood that we have evidence is the Muslims, the Islams in Mindanao, because they are the only one united in the context of who they are. But in terms of a Filipino, one concept, very difficult to say there's such thing. Kaya kung nationhood ang pag-uusapan, you can say that the nationhood is best exhibited by the Bangsamoro more than all of us, di ba? Separate, hiwa-hiwalay tayo, iba-ibang. So, let's talk about teaching nationalism and citizenship. So let's go to that. But I will do a little bit of different way of doing it. So I'll talk about curriculum design and nationalism. So I'll embed my own reading of nationalism literature and curriculum design. Plus, I introduce to my class how to use the textbook on the new taxonomy of Bloom, 2000, and how to use it to analyze and develop a curriculum. Very simple. So hopefully you can follow me. So it's nice if we have a small group and let's see if we can go through it. We have not been using that matrix, but now I will introduce to you the matrix. So we'll talk about, again, going into so this is both an academic exercise and at the same time going through a little bit of political exercise. So, papaumanhin ninyo, baka minsan yung mga sensibilidad ninyo sa ibang political, what do you call it? Your political line may be touched at one point. No? Okay lang, kasama yun sa ating sinasabing debate about nationalism. You know what? Why it's getting interested every day because if you look at the news in the US, for the last 3 days, there were 3 horrific events, right? 14 bombs were sent to former presidents, to other elected officials of the U.S., mostly Democrats. After that, what followed is two people were killed, two blacks were killed by a white person who tried to enter a church. Fortunately, it was locked. But nevertheless, kung hindi siya he wasn't able to enter the church, black church. He left and went to the grocery store and started shooting. And on Sunday, you know what happened? 11 Jews were shot, massacred inside the synagogue. And the person who shot the 11 Jews were saying, "Death to all the Jews because you are supporting the caravan coming from Honduras. They are invaders." And who are sharing that kind of stories? The right supremacists who are saying they are the white nationalists. So it's important to go into this debate because even the one who sent the bomb is also a white supremacist. It's important to talk about this because there is a danger of talking about patriotism and nationalism if it is not controlled, because you can go into super nationalism or ultra patriotism. And you know what happened? All these are ultra patriots, super patriots and super nationalists. So it's unless we as teachers will be able to control the discussion in the classroom, we might produce more people who are into bigotry, hatred, and more of racism. So it's very important. So our crucial role as teachers in teaching nationalism cannot be just it's simply saying anywhere, we're just facilitating it. So it's important. So therefore, we just look first into the purpose of the instruction, because that will help us dissect the objective of the instruction. And we need to be consistent with the test of our instruction and, of course, presentation of instruction. I like this curriculum framework very much because it helps me basically analyze how adequate or how consistent our curriculum is in relation to what we intend to do in relation to the particular course. So let's go first in this particular consistency. So we review the curriculum. Is there consistency between our statement of purpose and our statement of intended outcomes? Ngayon, who defines our outcome at this particular point? So when I was looking at it, I realized that I need to go back to one material that I never read actually since it was written. You know what material is that? It's so for us, but I don't know if how many of you have actually read the document. And of course, that's the Constitution. How many of you? When I wrote this, that was the first time I went back to the Constitution. Because I was finished with college when the Constitution was written. There's no reason for me to read the Constitution, right? It's not required already. I'm already a doctor. So let's do the elementary and the high school students read it. But let's do that. The framers of our 1997 Constitution recognized the importance of education in nation building and citizenship. And this is evidenced by how they frame Article 14, Section 3, which states, all educational institutions shall include the study of Constitution as part of the curricula. It's not even CHED. It's not even Department of Education. It's the Constitution. It's a constitutional mandate. We cannot get out of it. And what does it say further in Section 2? They shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect of human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes in the historical development of the country, teach the rights and duties of citizenship. So when I was, it's not as simple as a CHED CMO number 14 or 16. It's actually in our Constitution. We are all mandated as a citizen of the Republic to really look into it. But I told you earlier, actually I've never read the Constitution since it was written. But when I went back to it, oh my, ito pala, this is what they're asking of us. Then we can move forward. How it is translated to the things, to the materials that again was that help us. If you look into the CHED guideline, all of this will refer to this particular constitutional mandate. So, the next thing that we will look at will be Article 4, continuation of that. The citizens of the Philippines. Yeah. Those who are citizens at the time of the adoption, those whose fathers or mothers are citizens of the Philippines, born before January 17, 1973. Those who are naturalized in accordance with the law, natural born, down the line, Philippine citizenship. Although Section 5, I don't know, no? Because this one, Section 5 is dual allegiance of the citizens is inimical to the national interest and shall be dealt with by law. So apparently this was before the dual citizenship law, right? Because now we have the dual citizenship law. But apparently on the original framework of our 1987 Constitution, dual citizenship is not actually part of that. But what does it tell you? When I was looking at it, then I was reading through some other international literature, I realized this thing. This is limited. Is this a limited requirement for citizenship, a factor in the way we express our patriotism or sense of nationhood? Because it talks about limited. This is only how you become a Filipino. What's missing? It only tells you what is required. You should be a natural born citizen. That you should submit yourself for. Parang why are you a Filipino? Because I was born a Filipino. It's more like, why are you a Catholic? Because my parents are Catholic. But you don't even know why. So therefore, according to some scholars, legal and constitutional description of citizenship may not be sufficient for patriotism. That's why you can study the Constitution all you want, but it may not be sufficient for patriotism, because one needs to have a feel or sense of belonging, an attachment to, and a special appreciation of the country or its values in order to make sacrifice and to care for it. Baka naman yan ang missing sa atin? Huh? Maybe this one missing in our politicians, some people who make fake news, some people who run in Congress just to enrich themselves. Maybe this is something missing. There's something missing in us. We all want to leave the country, probably because of this particular provision. See? This is an experience in all other countries. Sufficient. So we move forward. We have to realize that there's also such concept as nationalism. And nationalism compared to nation building it is top-down. What does it mean? Nationalism is always top-down, assure that people from different backgrounds identify with the state. And therefore, the government being top-down, should be the example or the exemplar of that patriotism and nationalism. Hindi pwede manggaling sa tao yung nationalism. If your government, just like the same other countries, when their leaders start to change the way their country should look or the way the country should believe, that's the debate going on in the US, for example. Is the American president changing the dialogue? That now, to be a patriot is limited to hugging the flag, right? That's what he did. And recently he called himself a nationalist. And then historically to the Americas, at least to the US, nationalist is equated to the white nationalist. So it's a changing dialogue. You see? Nationalism is a powerful instrument on the part of government to help tie people together as citizens. Remember what Magsaysay was able to do using that kind of framework, right? Or even Garcia, President Garcia talk about the Filipino can, right? Or even we can even talk about Marcos, for example, right? When Marcos was elected, when Marcos declared martial law, he used this one directional campaign. Like as a child, as an elementary student, we have to always sing May Bagong Silang, right? I don't know how many of you have, maybe the millennials or even the Generation Z, whenever some of you, konti lang pa, who experienced singing the anthem? O yan, umabot pa, yan, mga age group namin yan, ha? Na? May bagong silang, may bago ng buhay, bagong bansa, bagong tatag, sa bagong lipunan. Magbabago ang lahat tungo sa pagunlad at ating itanghal bagong lipunan. So every day you have to sing that in flag raising, right? You have that National Anthem followed by Makabayan. Ano ba tawag doon? Panatang Makabayan. And then of course, there's a new we're using the new Panatang Makabayan. I was part of that group that's deliberated on the new Panatang Makabayan during the Ramos administration, when we were much involved in the EDSA revolution preparation. So that was when it was launched, the new Panatang Makabayan. But the thing is, we have that kind of, the country kahit paano is building that kind of. So now, can you think of anything that would more or less tell us that we're building a nation from top down? Are we singing the same tune? Are we singing the same call? Or are we more divided as a nation? Apparently, and even in other countries, apparently, unfortunately, actually, the social media is supposed to help us. But now the social media is one of the major source of division. Because that's where people go, debate, fake news and everything. And now they're doing that. So, in terms of nation building, ito naman paakyat. When nation building, on the other hand, is bottom-up process that happens when people identify with and codify a particular past, language, and customs as distinguishable from that of other people. Filipino ako. How many of us actually know why we are Filipinos even, right? How did it happen that Mindanao became part of us, or how Luzon? How did we become one nation? Do you know? Do you even know why we are one nation? I don't even know, no? Because I don't even know, because we became one. Whoever, but you know, you remember other countries, they were one, and then eventually decided to split because of some commonalities. Like for example, talk about neighbors in Asia. They were all divided in one way or another. Very recently, for example. They were all part of the British Empire, right? What happened to Pakistan and India? There was one place there. There was one place like Kashmir. One half of it, they are Muslims. One half are Hindus. So what they did, they separated by religion, and those who belong to the Islam, the Muslims, joined Pakistan. And the other half that Hindus joined India. Now Kashmir wants to be an independent state because they said we have our independent, we have a different culture. We are a totally different group of people. You talk about separation of Sri Lanka from India. But now there's a problem with, of course, very controversial. I just have to mention it. Of course, you have, I know it will be very controversial for your country, the issue of Rohingya, and of course in the Myanmar. But it's a reality. We have to talk about it because it's a reality. Or even when we say Singapore was separated, became an independent city-state from, well, Malaysia actually, diba? And sort of thing. These are all, so identify people, and that's basically what you call it, the Bangsamoro want, ba? But the thing is, the Bangsamoro are more united. They know exactly who they are. But we as Filipinos, we don't have that kind of luxury. Sometimes I know more being a Bisaya, and you know more being a Ilocano than being more of a Filipino. So, how do you do that in a country of 110 million people, 8 major dialects, and about 180 ethno-linguistic groups? How do you put them together? How do you find commonalities? Maybe no. So education is the key. How do we put them all together? Ang laki ng papel natin, doon din pala pupunta, no? So, the important role of education in state-making, nation-building, and citizenship has been long recognized and is exemplified by Napoleon Bonaparte. he started the creation of uniform school system and curriculum throughout the territory to have that French. The French as a nation, right? Can you imagine? It was Bonaparte who started his public school education because he wants to go a uniform school system so that people will have the same common ground. And that's the start of state-making, nation-building. Now, going back to our nation-building and citizenship. Department Order 71, Series of 2009 for elementary education. Guidelines for effective implementation of elementary curriculum which specifies that the teaching of education pagpapakatao and sibika at kultura, hekase. We only know about hekase. But it's basically, shall put emphasis on demonstrating nationalism and love of cultural heritage. But look at this. It's even have some numbers and rhythm. Huh? The pambansang awit shall be sung properly following the 2/4 time signature in 56 seconds. So beyond that, you're not a nationalist. You're not a patriot. It will have to be, 2/4, what's that? 2 like, all this up, down, and in 57 seconds. Now, what if you have 60 seconds? Napahaba. Will not be that will be violating department order? National songs, folk dances, poems, folklores, other literature and custom tradition that enrich the Filipino culture must be embedded in the school environment. Department of Education. Must be embedded. It's all department orders. In terms of high school curriculum, subjects were clustered into what is termed the Makabayan subjects. But what's the problem here? You know the problem? The problem is always about listing what we will do, what we should be, not exactly what we should become, right? It's only about to be a Filipino, do this, sing it for 57 seconds. To, recite the anthem. Now, for higher education, most degree programs cited Section 3 of Republic Act 7722 or the Higher Education Act of 1994 in formulating common outcome. This is what you see in OLCHED guideline. This is basically coming from Republic Act 7722. The development of responsible and effective leadership, the education of high-level and middle professionals, and the enrichment of our historical and cultural heritage. Then I added, because I know UPG is something into that direction. Then I searched the UPG Task Force 2015. The GE program is the embodiment of the UP tradition of liberal education which aim to provide students with a broad perspective that would enable them outside their own field of specialization to engage with issues and realities of their own times as citizen with sturdy moral and intellectual integrity. Huh? See? These are all defined. These are all defined. So let's look at that again and then analyze it in the context of how do we formulate this now into outcomes. It's so nice to hear the Constitution. It's so nice to develop a course and all about nationalism, but apparently we are failing in that realm. We're probably effective in producing better doctors, better nurses, better dentists, better rehabs. But what about the issue of citizenship? So, let's go back to this. So let's go back to our basic. So we know about the Constitution, we know about the Republic Act and all the department orders. But this one is the latest to talk about. We have a national policy on education for nationalism and citizenship from elementary to education. For our higher education, CMO 16, Series 2016. Demonstrate love to one's heritage, respect for other cultures, and commitment to service. Wala tayong kawala, no? Nandun lahat. We go to BSN program examples. You know, who are the BSN here? Who are the nurses here? Oh, nurses. Like, let's go to the nurses. Of course, it's also stated in medicine, right? Early now. Which states demonstrate responsible citizenship and pride of being a Filipino. But of course, OBE people are scratching. How do I put that? How do I measure, demonstrate responsible citizenship? Is that about paying taxes regularly? Right? Again, for elementary, is it about singing the national anthem? I was reading some articles in preparation for this, like just a news article, and one columnist in Inquirer talk about why is it so difficult now even for Filipinos to just stand up. Parang it's so, like when there's a national anthem for movies, but it's like, oh, parang like it's so difficult to stand up for the national anthem, like, right? Diba dapat ganun, di ba? Sana matapos na to. I want to sit down. I want to watch Avengers. So it's more like that. So, reading DepEd 71 is like reading the list of what to do. Those and this, what to do, those, and this is akin to observation made by Mary about American education. See? He asserts that while schools teach for civic awareness, it is limited to what they do and not why they do it. Kaya if in your class, check your curriculum. What are you doing? Are you giving them all the list of what are the lectures today? Who is a Filipino? What should do be as a Filipino, right? Probably we have been reading No Limitangere since elementary. We have been reading El Filibusterismo. Sabi nga ni, sino ba yung monk na author ng Inquirer, si Ambet Ocampo, is still a monk o hindi ba? He left the, he used to be a monk. He left na Ambet is supposed to be a monk. He always wear this. I think he left the monkhood. How do you call it? Monkhood? How do you call it? Monastery. And so continue to be a writer. Now, I don't see him now in the column with all this. But talks about the problem is we keep on reading Noli Me Tangere in a different way. Instead of appreciating Noli, we just want to go through with the whole thing about Noli Me Tangere. This observation by Mary should be the major consideration for designing educational policies and programs for developing citizenship. It should be targeting the development of public political culture where people identify with the state and do not feel forced to abdicate their own culture. Again, quoting Mary. This is important in the context of multicultural and multi-ethnic state like the Philippines. It's more like I identified me in my country without necessarily leaving or getting out of my own Ifugao culture, right? Paano ko nag-change siya? So, educating beyond, again, this is more important moment actually. Educating beyond civic awareness, the independent and rational thinking citizen. In whatever ways we interpret our history, what is essential is we have a collective memory as a nation. In studying our common history, we learn both the immediate causes and effects pertinent to the account rendered, but also to the effects of those views on our own place and time insofar as this connection can reliably be made. The problem is, I think we don't have a shared memory. The young millennials, the generation say, don't even know what happened 20, 30 years ago. Like, they cannot relate. Of course, I was born in the martial law. I was in elementary when martial law was declared. I was an activist when I was in college. But how many of the young people appreciate basically that there's such a different stage in our life during martial law? It's a debate. It's okay. We can debate about it. But what's important is we need to have a common history. Ngayon pinag-aawayan pa natin who is the national hero. Si Robin Padilla will blog about, no, it's about Andres Bonifacio. And then it's about Aguinaldo, and people will quarrel online, right? Because we don't have a shared memory. So, there's also a danger of educating for loyalty to the state. We should not be educating people for loyalty to the state, but rather educating towards critical patriotism. I know it will be very controversial for you, but let me go through it as discussed. My overall appreciation of how this program goals were formulated and mandated by DepEd are put into question with Mary's assertion that loyalty to the state is not one of the legitimate aims of education. Loyalty to the state is not a legitimate aim. At sabi ko sa inyo, there will be some controversy. But why? Maganda yung kasunod niya. This is important. developing a capacity for reasoning, critical thinking, and economic self-reliance is not loyalty to the state. You can have a loyal to the state, but not critical thinkers, right? Hala, sige, they can mount nationalism. They cannot even accept other people's view, right? So, ito yung pinaka-ano ni Mary that I really like. Educating for loyalty might discourage, because this one, educating for loyalty might discourage civil disobedience and conscientious objection, which are both perfectly valid ways of expressing citizenship. Cinema, have you watched the movie, what's that, the war movie about a Seventh-day Adventist doctor? Huh? What's that? It's in Japan when he was playing. What's the title? So Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge. Have you seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge? It's a very nice movie. Hacksaw Ridge is a story of a soldier who is a Seventh-day Adventist, but he never believes in violence. He never believes in violence. He doesn't want to hold a rifle, but he wants to be a soldier. Can you imagine that? He wants to be a soldier, but he doesn't want to hold a rifle. And he was basically rejected. But said, I can serve by being a medic. He want to serve as a medic. And he was sent to Japan during the last assault. In that particular, I think in one of the major last remaining part of the war, when it's called Hacksaw Ridge, because every time they attack, they have to go back because they're repulsed by the Japanese, and there's so many deaths. But you know what? At one occasion, they were almost all died, and he was there. He's the only one that remained. He was the only one who remained in the theater, and he was saving all the soldiers by himself. He did not hold the rifle. He was bringing them, tying them to a rope, and then bringing them down to the ridge. And by the time he finished, he saved more than 50 or 150 soldiers. And he never. At one point, they were already at the right. Really, he's almost ready to be killed by a Japanese. He never, and he was given a rifle. You know what? This is the nice story of that. No, he asked for a rifle. You know what he did to the rifle? He used it to tie the what do you call it? This canvas, so that he can pull the patients to the ridge. The other soldier thought, oh, now you want to hold the rifle. So I mean, you're ready to shut people. And so he used it to ferry people out of that harm's way. He was a conscientious, they call it, objector. Muhammad Ali was a consensus objector. He didn't want to go to war, right? Why Muhammad Ali was imprisoned. Because he didn't want to go to war in Vietnam. He was already recruited. Because he said, no, I don't want to go to war. I have no quarrel with them. Why will I go to war? So it was a conscientious objector. But if you have an ultra loyalty, it may even ban people from objecting. You want that? You will be considered not a patriot if you cannot go in front of the Supreme Court and rally, or you go in front of demanding for higher salary for teachers. Right? Otherwise, we will not do that. And that's important. Developing capacity for reasoning and critical thinking. This is what I really like about this article by Mary. Educating loyalty. So, going back to the case, nationalism and citizenship. You shall inculcate patriotism, CMO. So I decided, let me do a little bit of writing myself. And think, maybe we can have 4 objectives. Just 4 objectives for the exercise here. Acquire understanding of the following concepts: nationalism, patriotism. Evaluate own expression of nationalism and citizenship. Analyze current national events using as optics nationalism and citizenship. And create projects that demonstrate responsible citizenship and pride of being a Filipino in own professional context. So I said, subukan ko magsulat. Patagal na ako din nagsusulat. I always ask my student to write. But let's go to that. And let's look at this particular. My students have seen this. Some of you may have not seen this, but this is a very wonderful matrix, which is in the textbook of what they call taxonomy by the revised taxonomy of Bloom by Anderson and Cratwell. So if you look at that, why is it important? Because we need to analyze nationalism and citizenship in the context of the taxonomy based on the four, like say acquire, evaluate, analyze, create. So let's say acquire, that will be either conceptual, acquire understanding, which is remember what are the concepts and understand the concepts, correct? If you go to that taxonomy perspective. Evaluate own expression. Where do you think it will go? Evaluate own expression of nationalism and citizenship. Evaluate one's expression of citizenship. Where do you think will it go in the taxonomy? In the context of both cognitive and the knowledge dimension? Huh? Very good. It will be here, right? Metacognitive. Because it's evaluating your own nationalism. What do you think you are in the context of, how would you describe yourself in the context of nationalism or patriotism? That's important because you cannot make them or just talk about nationalism without even knowing where they are placed in that particular perspective, right? Analyze current national event. What do you think? Could be anywhere anyway. Let me see. In my own way, it would be something like procedural. Why? Because now you have to teach them procedures on how to analyze, right? Knowledge of procedure. How do you make analysis? It's just about knowing concepts, right? That's why we keep on teaching people concepts. We never give them tools to analyze. Now I have all about definition of patriotism, nationalism. I have the Constitution. What do I do next? Be a good person. Be a good citizen. How do I evaluate that? How do you evaluate national events? How do I relate to the national events? You know, we just need one very important competency here. You know, just appreciating fake news. Just knowing difference between a real news and the fake news unrelated to your decision making is already a big participation to the nationalist discussion or nationalism discussion. Maniwala ka agad sa fake news. You know what happened to the Jew? To the Jew murderer? The one who murdered 11 Jews there in the US on Sunday? He hates Jews. And he was listening to all this Fox News comments that the caravan from Honduras are there to invade the US. So they are invaders. They are supposed to be refugees, right? So they were mouthing that expression that they are invaders. How can a refugee invade the US? But he believed it. So you know what he's posting before he killed? Not a Twitter account, it's a Gab account. They think it's an alternative to Twitter, where all the hate groups can tweet anything that you hate about. You know what his tweet was? Now I'm going in. It's time to kill the invaders. See? Analyzing national event. He was, you see, he believed that they are invaders. Can you imagine some? Oh, Filipinos are coming, especially now, though they say that guy who sent the bombs is a Filipino. Si Sikos ba yan? Was Psychos? Sayok. So, but I think there's also different. The Sayok is supposed to be they say is the father is a Filipino. But he don't look Filipino to me in any way, no? Actually, according to more news, he said his grandfather is a Filipino. No, it's going backwards. His grandfather, and that their family owns several hospitals in the Philippines. Now, that's getting to be fake news now. But see, why did he send? Because he believes that they are being all non-patriots, right? Kill all those who are destroying the country. And it's happening to us. It will continue to happen to us. How do you analyze events and then create projects? You know, it will probably here create. But you know now that this particular perspective, when you teach, you cannot go to create unless you go undergo to all remember, understand, apply, analyze this particular concept, right? You notice that kind of use of the taxonomy. Now let's move forward. Now we know that. It will all start with identifying the culture to embrace, and we need not look in other places. We just need to reflect on what we are as truly Filipinos. In terms of all this, what exactly do we use? Mamaya, I'll show you one vertically and then fly straight. It lands like helicopter, then you don't know, you are not follower of arms and development. What do you call that? May alam niya, John. Hindi ba John? According to Gul Muhammad, education in global citizenship or world citizenship therefore requires familiarization with and understanding of the network of relationship and process that pertain to a complex and multifarious world, inclusive of the local community to which citizens belong. We have one from Myanmar here. He's part of our community now. He's our student. We need to understand. We talk about a lot of what is Myanmar, what's happening in Myanmar. Can you share to us about Myanmar? We want to know because we want to appreciate. Because even curriculum will have to interweave also with culture, right? So it's important. We are global citizenship. I even included in my discussion in the slide, the notes, perhaps Filipinos are one of the most global. Where I think we're present in all countries. Even those already destroyed by war, they're still there. When Libya was collapsing, when Libya was Gaddafi was in the verge of collapse, you know the trusted people around him, are the Filipino nurses taking care of him. And they were the last to get out. They tried to serve that particular circle. We're very global. So we should train people. The problem is when you become global and you forget you're a Filipino. We want you to become global, but you remain to be a Filipino citizen. No. So according to continuing Gul Muhammad, recommends the following strands when implementing global citizenship education: social and moral development, community involvement, political literacy, and identity and diversity living together in particular country, for example, the Philippines. So it's important. So we go. How do we bring that to this particular curriculum now? So we talk about this, acquire. So therefore, to be able to acquire understanding concepts, you need to have activities before this, and that will be remembering or activities to help students acquire understanding or factual knowledge related to concepts. See? Just because your objective is here, you immediately start here. Because you have to start remembering things or factual knowledge so that you can work on this particular direction. Help students to acquire understanding of concepts. I'm not giving you any more very basic technique, but just to show you that this would be how it works. So evaluate on expression of nationalism. So you bring down activities that will probably procedural knowledge, because if you evaluate on expression of nationalism and citizenship, the activities will have to be what are the procedures that you can use, what are the steps so that you can evaluate your own expression of nationalism. You see that? So before this, you don't tell students evaluate your own expression of nationalism. Probably, let us develop together a tools. How do we evaluate our citizenship? So that we together can evaluate as one, right? And we have common standards that we talk about. Then, that will also, TL4 helps TL activities to help students evaluate own expression of nationalism in the context of the particular level. Kasi kanina I understand how to evaluate it, but basically now here, do the evaluation. Then you go up, analyze current. So you talk about national events, then you probably talk about activities to help students analyze national events. You don't just tell students, analyze the national event. How? If you go to, like, see, we're studying, for example, governance, public administration, I realize there are so many tools that you have to develop just to talk about how do you analyze national events. You don't just say analyze events. There will be so many factors that you have to understand to be able to analyze event very well. And of course, you go into this create projects. It could be both summative project, and it could be basically a concept. So you need also to look into this particular perspective. So you remember now? So you go from acquire, and these are the activities. You go this probably activities. You go into, then you also see the sequence of how these activities will perform, right? So you go into from activities 1 to 2, then you move to 3. So you need this 1 to go to 3. You need this 3 to be able to do to 4, and probably you also need T3 to be able to help students analyze national events and down the line. So it also already give you a sequence of events. You notice? So you can plan in one matrix. Now let's go forward. Now we need to also align assessment. It's not about just teaching nationalism, but also look into it in the assessment. So let's go to that. So A1, classroom Q&A, acquire understanding. What do you know about? It's not graded. These are formative. What do you mean by nationalism in classroom? Right? What do you mean by citizenship to you? I was actually planning to do a video interview before you come in and help you, ask you about citizenship, but it's also difficult technically. But talk about that one. So A1, so acquire. So you can already do assessment here. So acquire understanding, you don't have to evaluate this, but you can go into already apply this to this. While it is acquire understanding, your analysis should be, how do I assess ability to apply the understanding? You don't talk about evaluating understanding only, right? So you see this one, the movement here, you go, here. While this is acquire, it doesn't mean that your evaluation will always be acquired. Go one step further. Your evaluation will be, I know that he has acquired understanding because he's able to apply. You don't end in understanding, right? You see that kind of framework in terms of, and you also see this, help activities, students, you go into this, and therefore, you can also look into evaluate national events here, analyze. So therefore, while analyze is your, so what you notice here, your objectives and your evaluation may be congruent at the higher plane, right? Meaning, your objective is apply, analyze, for example here, but basically your outcome or your assessment will have to be higher than that. It will always be one step higher. You don't say, kaya nangyayari sa ating classroom. What happens in our classroom? We make them memorize concepts, and then we end up testing how well they know the concepts, how well they can memorize the concepts, right? So we ask them, please define patriotism. Please define which of the following is correct about patriotism, A, B, C, D. That may be your objective, but your assessment could be higher because the actual outcome that you want really is from acquiring understanding to assess or ability to apply what they understood. So you go into further into that particular transactions. Where's that? Ayaw gumalaw, nag-lock ba? Nag-freeze doon? Fin-freeze ko ba? I can freeze from here? I don't know. I don't know that I can freeze from here now. Ano bang ganon? How do I unfreeze this one? My first time to see this function here. Nag-freeze siya? Talaga? Totoo nga. Huh? Oh my. Where is that? So let's go. May napindot ako. It's a function that I don't know. I don't know. No, but I reset it. This is the arcing is powerful pala. Huh? There's another function I just discovered after 5 years. It can freeze things. So evaluate a national event. So here, analyze, look kasi, analyze, but your assessment is basically evaluating a national event, right? So probably you give them a case scenario and then try to evaluate it. And then here, summative is create project. So this is both outcomes. So you notice the flow. You go, this is your outcome, these are your outcomes, these are your activities. At the same time, you go into the assessment protocol. So this is one page. You can actually prepare your curriculum design. This is very interesting because it helps you see the congruence between objectives, teaching, learning activities. Of course, the detail is not here, but can help you that. Now, another thing that I would like to go as I go forward, just a few more slides. I believe that for real nationalism to happen, first and foremost is for all of us to be cognizant of core Filipino values. This is a very nice example, especially the case of Singapore. Most of governance students will always read about Singapore's growth as a nation. It's a city. What you say, like, parang ibang Singapore, parang, diba? They go one direction. Understanding these values can help in selecting what proteins to cut. Nasa DNA level ang analysis sa Singapore. What proteins to cut or add in order to create a new DNA. The building block for the creation of cultures and capabilities that enable continuous learning and change that will ensure contribution to a country's socio-economic progress and prosperity. So the success of Singapore is not basically just because of business, but because they are a nation. They have developed nationhood. They are one. And that was through a very, very strong effort by the state to be one. Ba? Ganito tayo mag-isip. Ngayon, if you talk about our country, I don't know if we can brag about being one because we are not. And that's basically the reason why Singapore is better than us. Okay. So let's go to this now, Enrique's Behavioral Patterns and Value Structure Surface Current Societal, 1994. Colonial, sabi niya, colonial accommodative surface value, hiya, utang na loob, pakikisama. Associated behavior pattern, biro, lambing, tampo. Ayan. Confrontative surface value, bahala na, sama, sama, lakas ng loob. Sama, siguro, sama pala, resentment. Pakikibaka, resistance. Pivotal interpersonal value, pakiramdam, pakikipagkapatao, shared inner perception. Core value, kapwa, pagkatao. Linking social value, kagandahang loob. Let's look at this middle thing. This group here in the core value. Sabi niyan, if you don't develop kapwa, siguradong wala kang pakikipagkapwa. So it's a core value. If we as Filipinos can find that, can embrace the concept of kapwa, how can we be with other kapwa, right? If you don't have kapwa concept, paano ka mag-aalay sa kapwa? Wala kang kapwa eh. Di ba? Akin lang to. Kikita tayo rito. Di ba? Walang kapwa eh, nawawala yung pakikipag. We're losing the kapwa. Walang kapwa, walang pakikipagkapwa-tao, walang alay kapwa, and all others about kapwa. When you talk about kagandahang loob, pag makatao, if you don't have, according to the Enrique's paper, if you don't have loob, o niloloob, sabi nila, everything that was given to you from the loob, you know the loob? Doc, bigay ko po ito sa inyo, kusang loob. Binigay ko sa iyo, sabi nahiya pa yung doctor eh. Hindi na, bilhin ko na yan. You know what? Sabi ni Michael Tan, nai-insult to yung nagbigay. Because if a thing is given to you from the heart, the only payment appropriate for it is something that comes from the heart, not coming from the pocket. Right? If it was given to you from galing sa loob, ayan problema nito. Oh, kusang loob kong binigay sa iyo, ha? Iboto mo ako. Can you imagine? Kusang loob daw, but asking for payment during the election time. If you really want to give, give. Don't talk about boto mo ko. See? And talk about this. Associated values, karangalan, dignity, katarungan, kalayaan. These are concepts that we have. But we can talk about reductionist naman ito, no? Okay, karangalan, it's all about social acceptance. It's just as simple as you want to be liked every time in Facebook. That's for you is the lowest, the level of karangalan. That's not what karangalan we are talking about. Right? The dignity of being Filipino. Parang gusto mong pumuti ng pumuti, kaya malakas si Belo eh. Kasi mas maganda yung maputi. You're never proud of your dignity, your heritage. Justice. Where is justice? Why are we so afraid to talk about justice and injustice? It's so difficult for us to invite doctors to participate in exhumations, to find justice for victims of violence. Early know about experience with women and rape victims. It's so difficult to get doctors to participate because they don't want to act as witness in the court. But your witnessing to the court will help give justice to the woman or to the child abused. No, I don't want to participate. I'm afraid I don't want to be harassed by lawyers. Now, where is justice? And of course, freedom. All of this, if we are able to get this and embed, make them part of the whole conceptual framework of the way we teach about nationalism in the context of core values, not just the concept of political nationalism, then probably we'll have a better chance of going into that. So this is my own expression of nationalism. Me, as a young doctor, pushing my bangka to the barrio. Parang matangkad to. Matangkad kasi maliit yung kasunod ko. So it is trying to bring health services to the poor, to the remote areas. And this is me as a young doctor. I would think that is my part of my nationalist perspective, my service to the people. I think that's my own expression. Of course, comes retirement, I may have another direction. I don't know. Might go into another political work. But the thing is, that's a long shot. That's a long shot. Either you want to retire as a politician or to retire and just enjoy it. But the thing is, this is how we talk about. So, patriotism, nationalism is a very important component. We are required to do it. But please, if we are to do it, make sure that we develop not just the ultra-patriot or nationalists that we want them to become, but rather people who are critical. I may not agree with you, but what is important is we continue to dialogue. We continue to appreciate each other's right. We continue to appreciate your right. No, parang hindi naman, I will not tell you, oh, nurse ka, you should stay in the country. There's so many people dying. That's your freedom, right? But let's continue with the dialogue. And I don't want to say, I'm the only Filipino. Ako lang bang makabayan dito? Because I'm the only one who stayed behind? So the others are not Filipino makabayan anymore? That's not the kind of debate that we want. We want a more critical debate in relation to patriotism and nationalism. So as I said, we can write it, we can develop it, but the most important is let's see how it works, moves forward from knowing the cognitive requirement to eventually, of course, we did not include the affective side of it, really practicing and advocating for nationalism and patriotism. But of course, it's a difficult task. I don't even know if we are willing to teach it or to handle the class to patriotism, right? In OBE, this is one of the most important thing that they always ask about. How do we teach this? Can we not just give it to the GA program, right? How do I do it? Basically, because of that particular fear that teaching patriotism may lead us to a different direction. But teaching patriotism hopefully will help us develop more critical citizen of the Republic of the Philippines and have that kind of very healthy debate on what are we as a nation and what we as member of that particular free nation, member of the global community. Okay, magandang hapon and thank you very much.